I stopped trying to force my entire tarot practice into one journal and everything got easier. You're about to see a full tour of my tarot journal ecosystem, the multiple notebooks that I use, and what each one is actually for. A lot of tarot advice assumes that you can make one perfect notebook to hold all of your practice, but that's never worked for me personally. So I've got a few different journals, and I am always changing things up to keep them functional as my tarot practice evolves. In this video, I'm showing you everything: the daily draws, the long-term readings, and everything in between. And just quickly, before I get into it, thank you so much to my patrons who selected today's video for you. If you'd like to help shape what I make on this channel, as well as getting behind the scenes content, bonus videos, tarot spreads, all sorts of stuff, then do come join us over on Patreon. There is a link in the description. So here we have my tarot journal stack. And to be honest, it's really these two. I have two books, and then these are like supplementary extras with very specific purposes. I've got my daily drawer in here in this traveler's notebook, and then this big happy planner book is where I put pretty much everything else. And then, like I said, I've got a few specific like deck study books and some long form journaling on the occasions that they're useful. But really, everything is in these two books. I think we'll start with the daily draw, because this is probably the part that you might recognize if you've seen some of my journaling videos before. And this is also the longest running part of my tarot journal ecosystem. So I have my daily draw in this traveler's notebook, and can we just take a moment for the beauty that is this book? I bought this cover recently when I was visiting Japan. This is the Kyoto edition book, and then the little charm that I've got on it is from the Starbucks roastery. They have like a collaboration with Traveler's Notebook, Traveler's Company. This is from the Starbucks Reserve roastery. It's this beautiful like greeny blue. I love it, but that's not why we're here. We're here for the guts of the thing. So this actually this little folder is just my mini tarot zines, which by the way you can buy on Etsy, and then this here is my daily draw practice. And like I said, you've probably seen this before. I've been doing this for a year and a half now, maybe a little bit long, maybe 2.5 years. Yeah, I've been doing this for like 2.5 years now, I think. So I use an undated blank month calendar insert, and then I write the dates in myself to align with the zodiac seasons. So here, this was Taurus season, and I use the Guild Tarot, and I pick a different deck every zodiac season to work with. And it's more of a mini deck study, a mini guidebook study even. So here, Tarot Volatile, I was specifically using the big guidebook because I'd not spent much time with that. That was Gemini season earlier this year. And then things fell off a little bit. In Cancer season, I was using the Guardian of the Night. I fell out of the practice. I did a video not too long ago actually talking about my like tarot reading slump. I think I called it something like daily draw dropout, because I dropped this practice in Cancer season and didn't pick it back up again until Scorpio season, when I was working with the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck. And then here we are right at the end of Sagittarius season, and I've been working with the pocket archetypes, which is actually, sitting here just out of frame. So aside from the occasional break, I think maybe I took a month off last year, and obviously I took a bit of a break earlier this year. Aside from the occasional break, I have kept this practice up as it is, down to the style of the insert and the watercoloring that I do. I've kept this consistent for like over 2 years now, which I think is pretty good, because nothing else in my journaling, note-keeping, tarot planning life has been that consistent for that long. So I call this a win. This is a book that I plan on continuing. We're right at the end of Sagittarius season as I'm recording this. I haven't set up for Capricorn yet. I don't actually know what I'm going to use for Capricorn season, but I will be continuing this. And then at the moment, I don't really have anything else in here. I've just got a blank notebook tucked in the back. I have had different iterations of setup. I've had like a book where I was trying to do my moon readings, like full moon, new moon readings. I've had a book where I was doing my daily tarot journals. I will link my other tarot journaling videos in the description if you want to check out sort of previous incarnations of my tarot journal setup. But at the moment, it's really just this one book. It's just my daily drawer. And I love the way this works for me because it's a really restricted little space. Like you can see this month and last month, I've just been doing keywords from the guidebook. And even when I've tried to do a little bit more writing, I can fit maybe like a sentence, some keywords or a sentence. It's a really restricted space, so it keeps it a really quick little practice. This is also the most aesthetically pleasing tarot journaling that I do. The rest of my setup is just like pens, maybe highlighters, maybe a colored pen for emphasis, but it's just ink on a page. Whereas this is really beautiful. I love flipping through these. I have such a sense of like satisfaction at the end of the month when I've got a completed spread. The final thing that I do is doing these little like highlights of the suits. So as you can see in Sag, I've not done that yet because we've not quite finished the month or the season out. But just the finishing touches of adding these little highlights, like it looks so good. I love it. I love flipping through. I love the process of it. And like I say, because I have such a small space, it's really restrictive. That keeps it really manageable for me. And I think that's why this practice has stuck around the longest. So this is my daily practice. This is the book that I'm in theoretically every day. Often I will end up, it's the 18th today, so I'll be doing 2 days at once, but that's fine. This is the book I'm in most frequently, ideally daily, for literally like 4 minutes a day. It doesn't take me very long, and I love this book. It brings me a lot of joy. So now we move on to my big Happy Planner tarot journal, and this is pretty much everything else that I do in my tarot practice. So as for the technical specifications, this is the Happy Planner system that I'm using. It's in the big size, which I think is US letter sized. And it's a disc-bound system. So I've got these really cute little ghosty and pumpkin discs. I don't know how well that is potentially showing up on camera, but they're dead cute. And because it's a disc-bound system, I can move pages around, I can punch things and add them in, I can change up the sections, which I think is why this has been working for me. I've been in this now since the summer. I did a setup video of this journal on Patreon, actually. So currently I've got 5 sections in here, and I think that covers just about everything that I want to be doing in my tarot journal. So first up, we've got the year section, and this is very slim, but I'm envisioning this kind of growing as the years go on. So I have a sheet that I did for my card of the year for 2025, which was Justice, my personal card of the year. The plan for this was to track when I pulled Justice, and I need to go back through and check some of my other readings, but I don't think I've pulled Justice all year within larger readings. So I don't know what that says, and I don't quite know how to feel about that. So this was for my personal 2025 card of the year, but I think what I want to do with 2026 is do a personal card from my birthday year, which for my current birthday year is the Devil, and then do the kind of, I guess, global one. So by just adding the numbers together, that brings us to 10 with 2026. So it's the Wheel or maybe the Magician. Maybe I'll do a sheet for both. So I've got some things I want to add. And then my plan is, or my sort of idea is that over the years, as I add these sheets for the different years, I'll have these for like all the major arcana, or at least a lot of the major arcana. And I think that would be really cool. So that is currently all that's in my year section. The other thing I've got in here is just a log of what decks I used in different months, which, as you can see, I have not touched since August. So I probably will just recycle this, to be honest. Maybe I'll keep it going, because this has been quite useful for when I'm doing like video wrap-ups and things, to just see which decks I reach for when I'm doing like favorites videos here on YouTube. Maybe I'll hold on to this and just continue with December and then do another one for 2026. I'm not sure. But that is currently all that's in my year section. The second section is for the Tarot Lab. The Tarot Lab is something I run over on Patreon. If you're in the Fledglings tier on Patreon, you get access to the Tarot Lab. Every month we have a different theme. I share some resources, and we experiment with different layers of the tarot together. So I have all of the Tarot Lab stuff that is this size in this book. I had some previous bits in a different book, and I just haven't bothered moving that over because I don't really revisit this the same way I do some of my other tarot readings. So this was some readings from our multi-deck month. We did timing techniques in September. We did numerology in October. Let's just like flip through. We did color in November. This was so much fun. And I actually want to show you some of the color bits and pieces I did, because look how pretty she is. I love this. And this is exactly why I love the Happy Planner system for my tarot journal, because this is a piece of watercolor paper that I just punched and added in. So I can add in other stuff. Like this obviously is, I just printed this out on A4 paper and punched it and added it in. So I have all of my Tarot Lab downloads that I write, that I share over on Patreon. It's all in here. And then I also have my own experiments, because that is a big part of the Tarot Lab. We break down the theme within the tarot for the month, and then we look at how it kind of works within the tarot. And then we have some experiments with like ideas for playing with the theme in your own readings. And so that is a lot of what is in here as well as the printouts. It's also my own stuff and my own experiments with this theme in the tarot. So that is my Tarot Lab section. Oh, and this month we're doing spreads. We're doing spread crafting, classic spreads within Tarot Lab. So that is the second and maybe the chunkiest section, because I have all of these like printouts and downloads. And then the next section is just straight up readings. This is basically everything else that isn't part of the Tarot Lab, just other readings that I do for myself. You can see here I've like ripped out and punched and added in some readings from another book that I had. And I'll probably skip over this because some of this is probably quite personal. Another reason I really love the big size is because I do a lot of mind map readings, and the big size is perfect for that. I have all the space to like draw and make connections, whereas I've been in smaller books before, and that was in the way that this, I like how restrictive this is. This needs to be really big. So that's why I have such a difference in sizes. Like my daily drawer, I've just got those little calendar boxes. And then for everything else, I have these whole big pages. So we move along. The fourth section is my long-term section. And currently these last two are very slim. But this, by the way, one of my favorite dividers that I've made, I think. I really love the colors. And this side too. So this is my long-term reading section. And so far what I've got in here is just the one reading. The one reading that I'm repeating. So this is the Creative Business spread, which is from Chelsea Pippin Mizzy's Creative Tarot book. And this is one that I've kind of repeated every couple of months. I think I'm due another one actually. So I wanted to have all of these together in one place so I could see any patterns, I could see like changes over time. And so far that's all that's in this long-term section. But if I come back to doing like full moon readings or new moon readings, they could go in here. Things where I'm repeating something over time and I'd like to see them together instead of spread out through my regular readings. Or like I used to have a moon reading book in my traveler's notebook, and that ended up just not really, I skipped some and I lost momentum. Whereas this, because it is the Happy Planner system, I can pull pages out and just add them in whenever. I don't have to worry about leaving enough space or anything like that. So that is my long-term readings section. And then finally, we have my tarot study section. And this also is a little bit sparse at the moment. I just have a couple of pages for a Wildwood tarot study. And this is like the lowest pressure deck study in the world, because again, it's the Happy Planner system. I don't have to worry about leaving room or wasting a whole notebook, which we'll get to in a minute. This is foreshadowing. I can just add pages in when I feel like it. So far I've done the one reading and I've done this like title page, and I plan on adding when I'm a little bit more familiar with the deck, I'll add in my like thoughts on the deck as a whole, what it's good for, any kind of patterns that I've noticed, anything like that. And I can just add in pages whenever it feels appropriate or necessary. I am thinking I will probably put my herb crafters study in here. I did a video about planning a herb crafters study, like a personal curriculum based on the herb crafters, the herbal astrology deck, learning some astroherbalism. Like, it's going to be a fun time when I get time to do it. And I think I'm probably going to end up adding that in here and just putting it in this deck study tab, because I can add in pages, I can move things around. If I decide it needs its own book, I can do that later. But I think the Happy Planner is just the perfect system for me for my tarot journal at this point in time. And that is everything. I just have some blank paper at the back and this little pockety thing, which I mainly just don't know what to do with, but I have put like cards in here if I've been halfway through a reading and I want to write some more notes, but I need my desk for something else. I can sort of slot them in here, and that's actually been quite handy. So there we have my main tarot journal. As I said, I do have a couple more books, a couple more journals in my tarot journaling ecosystem. I've got a couple of deck specific books, like deck study books. This one is for the Sustain Yourself Oracle because there were lots of exercises in the guidebook that I wanted to try. I think I actually have a video where I was setting this up, so I'll try and link that as well. I set it up in August 2024. I'll try and link that if you want to see sort of my reasoning and how I set this up and why. So that's for the Sustain Yourself. And then I have this one here, which is for the Witch Sister Tarot. And so here, all this blank paper, this is why I like the Happy Planner system, because I have arguably wasted this notebook. Even if I come back in and I finish doing my card descriptions, if I do all my readings in this book, like it doesn't need to be in its own book. It could be in something like the Happy Planner system, like the rest of my readings. And I think going forward, that's definitely what I'm going to keep doing, because I've set this up with a page for each of the cards. And then I think my plan was at the back to write in any sort of research, anything interesting that I found out, because there are a lot of different influences that went into this deck. There's a lot of like history and folklore. And my, like here, this little list was the things that inspired her, and I wanted to go away, do some reading, and then write them in here. So I like that idea of having like a little Bible for this deck, but I didn't need to use a whole book for it. Considering how many decks I own, how many decks I want to study, this is not the most efficient use of notebooks or physical space, because this is a whole notebook when in reality it's a few pages worth of actual writing that I've done that could have just been a few pages in this book instead of a whole other book taking up space on my shelf. I think I've got a couple more stashed away somewhere. I've got a few deck study books. I don't need to have these, and I probably won't going forward unless maybe I start something in here and decide it needs its own book. That's fine. But I think going into a new deck with a whole blank notebook is a lovely idea, but I have learned at this point I'm not going to follow through. So that's those. And then finally, I do have this notebook here. This is just a Rhodia. What are we called? We're called a Rhodia something. And I'm not going to show you what's in this book because it is my sort of private, personal, long form journaling. But the reason I include it in this tarot journal ecosystem video is because I use specifically Drea Bloom's books as my journaling prompts, and they are all very tarot inspired or related to tarot. I've grabbed this one just to show you. This is Tarot for Transformation, the Pentacles Suit, a journey of healing and self-growth through the minor arcana. And it is a whole bunch of interesting things and thoughts about each of the cards, as well as lots of journaling prompts for each of the cards. I love everything Drea Bloom has come out with. I have quite a few of her books that she's very kindly sent to me over the last couple of years for like review. I know that I've got a video with one of her latest books. I did a video where I worked through one of the exercises on this channel, so I'll link that below. But she is a therapist and uses a lot of like therapeutic techniques with the tarot, or uses tarot with a lot of therapeutic techniques, and her books are so good. This is really calling to me. So this is in the Three of Pentacles. Oh, that's very cool. You can see this is not a book I've picked up recently. I've actually been using one of her others, but it's physically very large, and so I didn't grab it to show on camera because I'd knock things off my desk. But anyway, I think I've exclusively used Drea Bloom's books as my journaling prompts, and then this notebook is just for long form journaling. I'm not going to show you because that gets very, very private and personal. It is actually not really to do with tarot readings, but because I use these like Tarot for Transformation journaling books, it fits as part of my tarot journaling ecosystem in my brain. It's also the only long form journaling that I do, so there would be nowhere else to put it. This is my journal ecosystem. Everything is tarot flavored. So that is everything. It looks like kind of a lot, but it's also not really, because really it's just these two plus some extras for very specific practices. And I'm really loving it. I'm not a one book person. I can't be a one book person. I admire those who are a one book person. I know that some people do everything in one book, like their personal planning, their personal journaling, their tarot readings, their, I don't know, astrology stuff. That's a whole other kettle of fish. I've got a separate astrology planner study grimoire thing. But that is not to do with tarot, so it's not in this video. I have a lot of books, but as far as tarot goes, it's just these, and this really works for me. It's got enough variety for my different practices, and because this is the Happy Planner system and I can change things so often, it really helps kind of scratch that itch of when something's no longer working for me. It's very easy to just archive it, change it, do something else, put it in a different book, try new things. I don't get worried about setting something up because I can just start journaling and then create the system around it, which is really what I've done here. When I first set this book up, this big happy planner, when I first set it up, I think I had different sections and I had things organized in a different way. But as I've actually worked through my tarot practice, I have changed the system around it, and that's really, really worked, which you can also kind of do in a traveler's notebook, but because it's modular, it's got different books, you still have to kind of dedicate a book to a thing. Whereas this is just loose sheets of paper and it's very freeing. I love it very much. I also don't have the problem of like duplicating anything or trying to figure out what book something should go in, because it's either my daily practice or it is something else. And that's kind of it. It reduces some of that friction, which I've had before when I've had lots of different books. Because the other thing about this is that even if, say I'm doing something with the Wildwood Tarot, which I have that deck study page for, but it's also a Tarot Lab experiment, I can move it around. I can put it in whatever section makes sense. Maybe I would write it in the Tarot Lab section, but then later if I'm doing some Wildwood study, I can just rip the page out, move it to a different section. Everything is dated, so I can always put things back in chronological order if I wish to, and it helps me avoid repeating myself. It helps me avoid some of like that friction, that decision paralysis of where to put something, and it means that I can just do the tarot reading and the tarot journaling first, and then organize the system around it later as makes sense, which also means I'm looking back at my readings more often, and they're not only like tarot readings in the moment, they're useful, they're valuable in the moment, but also I can use them as like data to look over at patterns, whether that's patterns of themes of the things I've been reading about or like patterns in a specific deck. This system means that that is something I can do with all of my readings, and they can kind of serve multiple purposes, if that makes any sense. Like, it's not just useful in the moment, it's also something that I can like literally move around and look at in a different way. So there we have it. As things stand, I don't foresee any changes in my tarot journal system. Of course, I've said that, which means probably tomorrow I'll decide I want to do something differently, because that's just the way it goes, isn't it? But as of this moment, I'm really happy. Any changes that do come up, I'm sure will happen kind of organically. As for right now, I've got everything organized in a way that makes sense to my brain, and that's really all I can ask for. And with that, I'm going to let you go. I would love to know what your tarot journal system looks like. I am such a notebook planner girly. I've also got like my little Filofax personal planner here off screen. If you have a similar kind of like modular or DIY'd system, I would love to hear about it, because that is my favorite thing in the world. Do let me know in the comments. And otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spending some time with me. If you want to see more from me, or if the little sneak peeks of the Tarot Lab stuff seemed interesting to you, there is a link in the description to my Patreon where you can come and join us. Give me a like if you liked this one, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.